Contact Report 923, The True Meaning of Peace.
Yes then, I understand peace to mean much more than that there is no war and a certain stable freedom from war, and generally no war violence, because real peace is based on many other values. Peace can only be complete if, among other positive values, there is also absolutely no violence as far as possible, but rather a completely stable absence of violence. If the concept of peace is understood correctly, then it is a concept with very sharp boundaries that must never be exceeded, because in true peace there must never be even an iota of violence, and therefore also no climate of suppressed violence. True peace is a state of absolute non-violence, and thinking and living in the wise way in this regard. And this is also true for every human being and in every society. Peace is also the relationship between the observance of justice and the effective reality of truth. Peace is given in a close causal relationship of neutral perception and judgment from a personal point of view, with regard to justice and truth and personal neutral thinking and acting. The realization of real justice, truth, and absolute equality of all human beings, also in their absolutely personal understanding and action in this respect, is a necessary precondition for the realization of stable peace in human beings themselves. And only when this is effectively given can true personal peace arise, and also be carried forward, whereby social justice and real truth also arise, and every injustice is dealt with, and peace can arise from this. If human beings, or even a small or large society, really find peace in this way, then we can already speak of peace to a large extent. Although this can claim some plausibility, it is ultimately not enough to call this real peace. For firstly, in addition to justice and truth, there are many other factors that effectively determine the stability of peace. Prudence is just as important in constantly checking that everything is really good, and that the balance of peace can be maintained. Economic and cultural factors are just as important and must be observed, both in personal behavior and also towards other human beings and society. Justice and truth play an important role, but they are effectively only individual factors alongside various others. Justice and truth really only contribute to the actual development and stability of peace if the human being is relatively clear and unanimous about what effective justice and truth are, which he or she needs for the development of his or her own peace, and that of fellow human beings and society. However, this is precisely what Earth humans of this world do not understand, and do not use in conflicts of any kind, because it is always the case in a conflict that peace can hardly or not at all be achieved, because they absolutely do not try to realize a disputed idea of justice and truth. This is because it is not even considered, even though the pursuit of justice and truth are always and in every case linked, and this will always make it difficult or even impossible to achieve peace. Justice and truth are therefore a necessary causal precondition, because in order to really work out and bring about a stable peace, they must be included. In another wise, there is a close connection between peace, justice, and truth. These are always a precondition for the realization of peace, but peace is a value in its own right. From the perspective of necessity, justice and truth are only instrumental values, as a means of realizing peace. Justice and truth are not only a precondition for peace, but the latter is, on the contrary, also a precondition for justice and truth. Consequently, all three values are necessary for individual realization, and are therefore interdependent, and together also important for personality and social upswing and prosperity. The human beings and society's natural needs in terms of satisfaction and security, etc., are also dependent on this. So it is by no means the case, even in the slightest wise, that all three values are only means for the realization of peace, justice, and truth, but are values that also have many more purposes and benefits, which fundamentally determine the behavior of human beings and also their lives. Peace, justice, and truth are values in their own right, but human beings should always keep them in mind for many specific issues, and also for events and occurrences, etc. Peace is more, much more than just times without war, because it also encompasses the whole of life, which also includes personal effective balance, true love, harmony, joy, happiness, contentment, and the fulfillment of necessary needs, etc. Peace also includes other values. However, peace also includes other values, such as the active promotion of good education and human rights, tolerance and the rule of law, as well as intergovernmental, private and social justice and security for freedom, righteous freedom of speech, and freedom of thought, as well as freedom and security for life and limb. To create peace within oneself, there are a number of things that must be taken into account, and I would like to point out what the values and non-values are in this regard. 1. The human being has to learn to create a consistently positive world of thoughts, and to behave accordingly, because it is through his thoughts that he creates his feelings, and, in turn, his emotions. The state of his feelings and emotions means that he is affected by the words, deeds, behavior, and actions, etc. of other human beings through unrestrained and also influencing swinging waves, which unfold their negative or positive effect depending on the positive or negative state of his own thoughts, feelings, and emotions, as well as those penetrating from outside. 2. It is essential for human beings to free themselves from all negative baggage that has become ingrained in their thoughts, feelings, and memories, as this prevents them from absorbing all kinds of positive things, and processing and storing them into good, positive, and valuable things. 3. Physical positive activity of any kind, and wise, is of urgent necessity. Not only to keep the physical function and health in adequate gear, but also to keep the mind active and to make extensive use of the vitalizing creation energy and the evolutionary creation life energy, thus counteracting Alzheimer's and dementia. 4. In order to create peace within oneself, it is necessary to eliminate all fears and worries and negative memories that have a negative effect, and to remove them completely from one's thoughts by dissolving them. This means that every time you breathe out, so to speak, you release and forget unpleasant, stressful thoughts and memories. 5. In order to create peace within oneself, it is necessary to practice meditation in order to bring oneself into peaceful tranquility, which is free from stressful thoughts and emotions. 6. The important thing in this meditation is to concentrate on and be aware of your breath. Not to allow yourself to be distracted, and also to gently bring your attention back to your body. 7. In order to develop and maintain peace, it is necessary to avoid disputes and conflicts as well as any violence, to conduct conversations in a regulated and considered manner, and to always respect justice and truth, which in the world of conversation, always ensure that there is also a state of calm and harmony. Particularly in politics and also in the private sphere, all important aspects of peacemaking are disregarded in peace negotiations and private attempts to settle disputes out of ignorance of the importance of peace, resulting in protracted, useless, and brainless negotiations without understanding and reason, and no success whatsoever in achieving peace. Peace negotiations and living together in true peacefulness mean that differences in also abilities as well as views, opinions, and also different religions and worldly beliefs are to be accepted, as well as listening to others, thus also recognizing others, respecting them, and also valuing them, as well as living together peacefully, and united and always, and in any case it is announced that a world without hatred and revolt of any kind can never be created with war. War is never a means that leads to true peace. It does not create a world in which human beings can live together harmoniously, regardless of their differences. We therefore live on earth in a world of false peace, which means that we live in countries that do not live in true peace, but in war, peace imposed by war victors, even if this peace was also achieved several decades or many centuries ago through an end to war. Once inner peace has been created in human beings, it can be maintained through serenity, for this is a skill that can be learnt, which helps human beings to achieve a calm and balanced state of consciousness, and enables them to maintain inner peace, regardless of the ups and downs of life. This is because when everything is going good, everything is fine, but also when it does not feel that way. Practicing peace and recognizing it leads human beings to where true love also is. The human being, by applying the steps of peace in everyday life, will experience its fullness and understand the different efforts and strategies to be taken to prevent conflicts, because a real and good stability of peace prevents disputes. The truth is that there is only a positive, true peace on earth when all human beings on earth find justice in truth and create peace within themselves and between all human beings in every country. Only a stress-free state of true freedom and pure positive peace offers tranquility and security, as well as no fighting or war, for only true peace gives perfect harmony, freedom, and coexistence in unity, justice, hope, love, courage, forgiveness, and truth. Peace is a state of clear mind and absolute reason that resolves vicious conflicts without violence, allowing human beings to live in dignity and freedom. Peace, simply explained, means there is no G-vault and no war. Peace means that human beings can live in security, without fear of violence and strife, without lying, hatred, falsehood, lies and deceit, thievery, robbery, injustice, war and revenge. Peace is a calm state of true harmony in which hostility and violence are absent. In the social sense, peace usually also means the absence, and therefore the absence of any conflict, as well as fear and violence between individuals or groups. Peace is a state of harmony in which hostility and G-vault are void and absent. Consequently, there is no war and no social grievances, and therefore also no difference between rich and poor. In its true sense, peace usually means the absence of conflict, but also the freedom from violence between individuals or groups. True peace refers to a state that does not allow any differences or even disputes to arise. If only pseudo-peace prevails, such as after a dispute or war, etc., which is determined by victors, then this never equates to true and genuine peace, because there is always coercion behind it. This coercion also continues to prevail when, after a certain period of time, the sham peace or victor's peace is cancelled. This is because the power obsessed of the previously defeated will then inevitably rise up and take the helm of the government and seize the might that has been granted to them, or that they have arrogated to themselves, consequently issuing new laws and ordinances, regulations and provisions, according to their whims and fancies, which they declare to be necessary and plausible, and make believe to the people for an affirmative vote, or simply impose them in a self-imposed populist or dictatorial manner. This is contrary to the will of the people, who are either humiliated or fearful, or also indifferent and irresponsible, and allow everything to happen to them. Power-obsessed government leaders, however, always have lowly, intelligent, and simple-minded followers and supporters from among the people, so that any reasonable and non-violent resistance is omitted, and the true freedom of the people's citizenship, and their rights as human beings, can even remain for centuries and be abused and enforced by the rulers, up to and including the obligation and compulsion to join the country's own military or murder organization, in order to murder and destroy on command and be killed themselves. This, while the culpable ones who give the order squat somewhere safe and secure and enjoy life to the full, instead of being on the front line themselves and beating each other's skulls bloody, and thus coming to the use of clear minds and grasping reason. Between individual unreasonable persons, as well as between groups or states, strife, quarreling, and greed for land or power should never be allowed. Consequently, all disputes should be dealt with by neutral-thinking persons on the basis of understanding and reason, laws and rights, absolutely without violence, so that everything is settled peacefully. Peace seen from a purely humanly reasonable point of view, from which, unfortunately, the majority of all those politicians are to be excluded, who are not amenable to peace, logic, understanding and reason, etc., but who are only orientated towards might, wealth, lust for power, revenge, and righteousness, etc., and oppress those who are not of the same mind among them, is a state of understanding in reason, to which it is logical to see and say, 1. Peace is non-violence, knows no wars, no armed conflicts, no strife, neither hatred, nor revenge, nor retaliation, no physical threat or menace, no violence, neither lies, nor deceit, nor aggression of any wise. 2. Peace is structural justice and the elimination of poverty and discrimination, as well as the strict avoidance of any kind of conflict, but also the absolute and just recognition of the absolute equality of all human beings, as well as their gender and sexual orientation. And peace requires equal opportunities, which also includes the abolition of all inequalities and injustices. 3. Peace requires inner peace and harmony, and thus also personal and general harmony in all relationships, as well as absolute security in one's own and wider environment everywhere, without fear of any things or events, disputes, or injustice. 4. Peace is based on a process of self-knowledge and the fulfillment of the conditions of true behavior and pacifist coexistence, which means that peace is not a static state, but an active process that always requires dialogue, as well as the promotion and fulfillment of the rule of law, democracy, and all human rights. 5. Peace means averting, omitting, and preventing all direct and indirect, visible, tangible, hidden secret, sensitive, emotional, and also subterranean violence. 6. Peace includes, at all times and in all situations, the complete prevention of all forms of structural violence, as well as the elimination of even the slightest hint of violence, but also the building and creation of a just, harmonious, and equal society in which all human beings can fulfill their potential.